Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. I lost my page here. That's what happens when you talk here. So, former candidate for sheriff, Jonathan Peck, is next.
But first, do you know we have a world-class training school here in San Diego? Pilots can fly almost every day. We're close to the ocean, the desert, even the mountains, and we're right next to an international border and a major military base. That's why San Diego is one of the best places to learn how to fly in the world. Learn to fly in the heart of San Diego right at Montgomery Field. Getting started is real easy. Just give them a call, 858-569-1822, or go to Learn to Fly SDFTI. But call them at 858-569-1822 and thank them for sponsoring Gun Owners Radio.
All right, just in case you were living under a rock, we had an election on Tuesday, and one of the big decisions people had to make was for sheriff, and it's basically an open seat. There were 7 folks who jumped in, and one of them who I'm particularly fond of is on with us, Jonathan Peck. How are you, sir?
Good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, just to so you and I, just full disclosure, so everybody knows, you and I know each other. You and I used to hang out in the same circles years ago, kind of lost touch, but then reconnected during the election, and I was really glad to see that you jumped in. But I just want everybody to know, I just want to talk about your experiences, talk about your thoughts, but none of this is prepared, right? We didn't prepare this at all. No,
just a text message to have you on today.
Yep. Okay, good. Well, so I'll tell you what. Let's start from the beginning. Why did you jump in? Let's just say that. How come you jumped into the race?
Well, what really set it up was all the COVID measures over the last 2 years, and being in law enforcement, watching basically the Constitution got thrown out for what they said was an emergency.
Yeah.
And that had really bothered me, and I've been fighting it within my own department as much as possible. And then I was actually approached kind of at the last minute for the sheriff's race by some members of my community that had looked at all the sheriff's candidates and said they couldn't support anybody. And they knew my stance, on fighting all the COVID measures and everything. And so they asked me to run, and I didn't want to at all. It's politics is kind of a nightmare to me, but I looked at it and said, they're right. And I am kind of the only person who will run and represent these people. So I said, well, let's give it a shot and see what happens,
And you're a Republican. You ran as a Republican, and the folks who approached you, in essence, are. And I don't think we need to sugarcoat anything. The Republicans endorsed a horrible candidate, and that is in part, at least, the reason that you were recruited to run and you ran. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah, and I was looking for a reason to say no when they first approached me, and so I went and looked at the candidates, and I was looking for anybody who would have just said, hey, government overreached during the COVID stuff. They violated some stuff. We need to make sure that never happens again. Never arrest a paddleboarder on the beach again. That was a mistake, and there was nobody saying that. And so I said, well, I guess I got to be the guy to say that.
Well, and I got to tell you, you and I spoke right after you jumped in, gave me a call, and we reconnected, and San Diego County Gun Owners had already gone through the endorsement process, but you and I chatted a lot, and I'm continue to be extremely impressed with how your campaign took off. Impressed but not surprised, because I know who you are, and I watched, and you did a great job. But man, it not only did things take hold for you, and you didn't have $1 million in the bank. It's hard to raise money, number one, and it's it's just hard to raise money in any, even the perfect situation. It's hard to raise money, but the people were really excited. So you got a lot of people on your side really quick without spending money, and they were really excited about you. What's your reaction to their reaction?
I'm completely overwhelmed. When we started, it was basically me and one other guy were completely dedicated to this. And so we just went, the VFW up in Ramona is the first place I spoke. And just the amazing response I got from just telling people, that I actually want to represent them and defend their rights, and that I want them to be armed because I want them protecting me when I'm out on the road by myself. And that just resonated so much with people. I didn't expect that. I thought the constitutional sheriff thing would kind of be a fringe thing, and it turns out there's an incredible amount of people who they want that so badly, to have a sheriff that represents the people and not a sheriff that just kind of does the bidding of the politicians.
And, you're a legit gun guy, too. I know that firsthand for a fact, and it was really, really nice and refreshing. It always is nice and refreshing to hear anyone running for office unapologetic about their stance on the Second Amendment, and I'm so glad that it resonated with so many people. I got to tell you, we got a lot of feedback. We get a lot of emails, phone calls, texts, Facebook messages, Instagram messages, blah, blah, blah. Everybody, communicates with us, which I invite. I love it. I think our members and our followers are really engaged with our organization. That's fantastic. But by far, we got a lot of inquiries about you. And I never had a bad word to say, and said, yeah, he's a legit 2A guy, and check him out. Here's what we did and why we did it, but check him out. And, you and I talked throughout. What did you learn? What kind of things did you learn when you were running for office here? Because this is the first time you've ever done anything political, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely the first time. I just learned that there are so many great people out there, and there's really an awakening going on in the last couple of years. And I had no idea how that was going to translate into votes. And then, with the mail-in ballots for everyone, who knows where that leads in the future of California. But, I learned there's a lot of people out there that didn't feel represented, and I'm kind of looking at how best to serve those people now. I'm still working law enforcement full-time, so it's hard to do that. I'm just kind of looking at, how I can repay these people for being so supportive of me.
Well, hey, Jonathan, this is Joe, and I just wanted to say to you that, I know you didn't make it this time, but I hope you're going to stay involved and engaged, and I hope you're going to continue in some form here in our political process, because our system is broken. Our party is broken out here, and what we need are people exactly like you that have exactly the character and exactly the positions that you have to get involved here and help us get things fixed, basically, and get this back. They're talking about a red, what are they calling it, a tsunami here in November. And somebody yesterday was saying hopefully it'll be more like a red reset, because it doesn't matter. You don't want to get the same old people back in office again. It doesn't do anything. We need people that feel the way you do and think the way you do in office to change things. So I hope you're going to stay with us here, Jonathan. I hope you're not gone after this.
No, I'll stick around in some form. I see, mostly the gun grab that's being attempted right now it makes me wonder what they're planning to where they don't want the people to be armed. So, I think even though I'm in law enforcement, I'm exempt from all this stuff. Everyone I care about, almost everyone I love, they're kind of held down by all these stupid gun laws in California. So, I'm a huge advocate for it, even though it doesn't affect me, directly.
Did you get any pushback while you were running from your employer?
No, I think they're afraid of me. It's illegal for them to do anything to me for this, but, they always have their ways of coming at you some other way. But luckily I have an extremely clean record in my job, and so it'll be really hard to do that. But, saying the things I'm saying, nobody at the tops of any department likes that. So we'll see. Hopefully nothing happens.
It was, it seemed like, what was your strategy? Talk a little bit about your strategy. It seemed like you were getting votes from, there seemed to be a church element and there seemed to be a rural element, but talk a little bit about your strategy.
So it started out just going anywhere anyone would let me speak and just speaking what I believe to be true. And it turns out that's kind of an anomaly in politics, so a lot of people responded to that. But what ended up happening is a lot of the health freedom people, over the COVID lockdowns and everything, all those health freedom people, everybody who had their churches closed, people who had businesses closed, people who don't like their kids wearing masks, all those people kind of flocked to me and said, you're the only one saying this was wrong for the government to do this to us, and you're the only one saying you would step up and prevent that as sheriff. And so that was really kind of my base that I didn't even know was going to be my base.
That's interesting. What was so that was the most, would you say that the COVID stuff was the most common asked question when you say, hey, I'm running for sheriff? Was that the most common question?
Well, that and CCWs.
Yeah.
So my position is, hey, the Second Amendment says nothing about you asking your government permission to keep and bear arms. There's no way to read it and assume that's what they meant. And So I said it would be unlawful for the sheriff to enforce California's illegal gun laws. And then the next question I always got was, but what about CCWs?
Interesting. Yeah, it's I used to get that all the time too. I mean, they're finally issuing. There's still some hoops to jump through, but the way I put it is there's still some hoops to jump through, but now the hoops are big enough so everyone can fit.
Yeah.
And for you've seen me. If I can fit through the hoop, anybody can fit through the hoop, right? So, but I used to get that question all the time. I mean, I would I'd tell people, yeah, I could go up there and read The Cure for Cancer, and the first question would be, how do I get my CCW? I mean, people really, really want to know, and not just Republicans, and not just a certain type of people. I mean, it was everybody, all ages, every background, every kind of political. People wanted to know, hey, how can I defend myself? And it cuts across party lines. You were a Republican. I got to tell you, one of the things I'm hoping you'll do is get really, really, really involved in the local Republican Party. What are your thoughts as far as the future?
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. Obviously, they need some help. Something needs to change in the local Republican Party because there have been a lot of great candidates, and they've mentioned that the Republican Party locally only cares about how much money you can raise, not about your stance as a candidate. And that needs to change because it seems like the Republican Party is just kind of professional losers in California, putting up, watered down candidates and, nobody that really stands apart from the Democrats and nobody who, real conservatives can get behind and get excited about and, maybe even go on a freeway overpass with a sign for free and campaign for them.
Well, there's an enormous disconnect between the Republican Party and Republicans. Republicans think that the Republican Party enforces their platform and vets candidates with any kind of competence, and neither of those are true. The Republican Party does not do that. Jonathan, we're going to bring you over to the next segment, man. Stay with us.
Awesome, thanks.
PRMI Mortgage, primeres.com/Alpine. Hey, if you're looking to buy, refi, or if you're just considering a reverse mortgage, call our local mortgage guy that you can trust. Call Chris Wiley at PRMI Mortgage. For nearly 25 years, Chris has been helping local San Diegans with all their mortgage needs. They make it easy. Work with a friendly expert team that will help you get the best deal on a mortgage. Call Chris Wiley at 619-722-1303 or just go to primeres.com/Alpine.
All right, we're talking to former candidate for sheriff in San Diego here, Jonathan Peck, and we were just talking about how everything went. So what was the best part? What did you enjoy most about running for office?
I loved saying things that nobody else could say.
Yeah, talk about that.
Amazing feeling.
Talk about like why can't they say what you were saying?
So I've been on a patrol guy. So I drive a patrol car the last 19 years. So I haven't had to take a knee to climb the ladder at all. And anyone who climbs the ladder in any government organization kind of has to watch what they say just to make sure they don't step on the toes of the people who got them there. So I was able to go out and just say anything I wanted. And, one of the candidates ended up, using some of my answers at a thing we were speaking at together too, because he saw the response I was getting from people and the lack of response he was getting.
So he was cheating off your paper there?
Yeah. It was some of my stuff from the Union Tribune.
So Action Jackson, 9 years old, one of our co-hosts here. He shoots every Wednesday. He goes shooting with his 9mm Glock, and he wants to confirm that you are in fact a legit gun guy, John. So go ahead. What's your question?
What's your favorite gun?
Good question.
My favorite gun is my Savage B-17. I know this is going to be controversial, but it's my favorite because I teach my kids to shoot with it. And it's dead on accurate to about 185 yards, and the kids can still hit aluminum cans to 200.
Whoa.
No recoil, dead accurate, and I can shoot it with no ear protection, although I wouldn't recommend it for people with good ears.
That's awesome. What do you think? Is he a legit gun guy, Jackson?
Yeah, I would go shooting with him.
You'd go shooting with him. Good. All right, you passed the test. Good job.
Well, thank you. That's the important part.
So we got a lot of heat from folks that really liked you, and I was glad to see it. I love seeing people that are passionate about the Second Amendment, but we definitely got heat from folks who said, "Hey, how come you didn't endorse, Peck?" And so let's the tough question. I mean, what are your thoughts on San Diego County gun owners? I know we didn't endorse you. But what are your thoughts on our organization? And, do you have a critique for us, or do you have any advice going forward, or any animosity, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm a member, and I'm still a member. I was a member before this started. Because you endorsed before I even entered the race, I can't fault you at all for not endorsing me. It would have been awesome if you said, no, we like this guy instead and pulled the endorsement, but I understand why you didn't do that. I'm going to remain a member. I would like to see people start advocating for the Second Amendment as it is written instead of kind of asking permission. I know your big focus is CCWs, but if we could get enough people together to say, no, this is all, unconstitutional and it shouldn't be done, we could at least put some pressure on politicians to, do a little better here in California.
I don't disagree with what you just said. I mean, I would love that. It feels like that's, we're on getting CCW so that everyone could get a CCW in San Diego. That's like step 100 and we're on like step 3. For sure. And it's a huge victory, and I don't like the hoops that you have to jump through to get the CCW. I think the Supreme Court is probably going to take away one of those hoops here in about a week or two. I think that the Supreme Court decision with the New York case is probably going to completely eliminate good cause, and I think that's wonderful. But this is a really good example of how activists can get something done in a positive manner. And, we don't have to rely on courts. Courts are going to complement the situation, but I don't disagree with what you said. I know you're passionate about the Second Amendment, and it's really, really good to hear. And thank you so much for understanding. I was really impressed by your campaign, and I was really impressed by the folks who supported you. And it really got to the point where I'd talk to people and say, well, here's the deal, and yeah, I know Jonathan, and he's a legit 2A guy. And it kind of got to the point where I said, if you don't like, if you can't vote for a Democrat, then just don't vote for the Republican that they endorsed. Definitely, at least vote for Jonathan. If there's no way I can convince you to vote for a Democrat, okay, fine. I get it. There are other things, there are other issues that weigh into this thing other than the Second Amendment. But we're a Second Amendment organization, so vote for Peck for sure. Absolutely, he's a really great guy. And I think that I think every single one of your votes took away from Hemmerling, which is thank you. That's an enormous accomplishment because he really is. He's a disaster. I don't know. How much do you mind going into your thoughts on Hemmerling?
I'm trying to be nice, but he rescinded his Family First pledge. When at that point, I'm kind of like, what? I at least have to say the true things that he's doing. Because, I can't respect somebody who does that just for political reasons. What's
the Family First pledge?
So the way politicians or anyone running for office gets basically into the churches locally is there's a Salt and Light Council who has this Family First pledge. And it's basically traditional family values. You read it, sign it, send it into them, and then they'll start to invite you to church events. And after the UT pulled his endorsement, the editorial board endorsement.
Yeah.
He apparently contacted Dran Reese, who's the head of the Salt and Light Council, and rescinded his Family's First pledge.
Yeah, that the funny thing, it's not the crime, it's the cover up. This is kind of along those lines. It wasn't so much what he said that the Union Tribune didn't like, but the fact that he couldn't explain it. And I got to tell you, that's kind of what we uncovered when he was on the radio show back in January. It wasn't so much what he was. Well, it was because he's this red flag law stuff is just a disaster, and we really there's no way we ever would have supported him, considering what a zealot he was for spreading gun violence restraining orders. But the way he reacted to it and the kind of the mealy-mouthed, wishy-washy way that he just won't stand for anything, and that's exactly what the Union Tribune discovered when they circled back and questioned him on his comments, is guy's got no backbone. He's got no business near authority in any way. Hey, let's talk about red flag laws, gun violence restraining orders real quick. So you've been a law enforcement officer for 19 years. What are your thoughts on gun violence restraining orders?
So I believe they're a complete violation of the Second Amendment. I believe there are definitely people out there that shouldn't have guns that haven't committed a crime, but there's no one in the government I trust to determine who those people are and take their guns away. And that's, my stance is you might be able to save some lives with them, but you can't violate everyone else's rights to do that.
Now, being a 19-year veteran in law enforcement, has there ever been a time that you have, you thought, gee, this person, this criminal or whatever doesn't have or shouldn't have a firearm, and I'm having a hard time taking their firearms away. Does that make sense? Have you ever had difficulties? Has there ever been a need, I guess, for a gun violence restraining order?
Not anything I've encountered. Usually if you talk to people and you can determine they're a danger to themselves or others, they'll, willfully go get treatment. They'll willfully, surrender their guns without, the actual restraining order.
Well, our big question, of course, when he was working for Mara Elliott, the city attorney, our big question that I've said this over and over and over again is, hey, if they're violating the law, which is what you just described, you can already take firearms away. Law enforcement can already take firearms away. If they're not violating the law, why are we taking firearms away? And that was a question she looked like a deer in headlights. And I think it all boils down. I think that's the crucial question right there. If you're not breaking the law, why are we taking away the rights of an adult American?
Well, exactly. And where do you draw that line? Throughout the last 2 years, how many people called us crazy for saying stuff about COVID that turned out to be true, even family members? And what if those people had said, well, this guy's dangerous, we need to take his guns? When you were right the whole time and you're not a danger to anyone. That's the slippery slope we're looking at with this. Yeah,
no kidding. It really is. What are you going to do as far as the sheriff's race from here on out? Are you going to be involved on either side, or is there another race that you like, that are there any candidates that you want to try to help, or what are you going to do as far, leading up to the November election?
Well, there are 195,000 uncounted votes. So I'm not.
I'm sorry. You're right.
Out of it yet.
My apologies. Let's say my apologies. You're right.
Yeah. We can hope for the best. In the sheriff's race, I don't think anyone needs help here. I think people are helping themselves, and it's gonna pan out pretty clearly what they believe in. I just want to get together with a lot of the candidates that had run for the first time this time. They're just awesome people who looked at everything that's going on and said, I have to do something, and, get with them and see what we can do as a group, because most of them didn't make it through because they weren't, the big money Republican candidates. So I'd like to do kind of a grassroots, freedom candidate sort of thing, and, try to have more influence over the Republican Party.
There's a couple of candidates out there, I got to tell you, that would fall right in line with what you're describing. Like Amy Reichert could definitely use some help, especially with her background and why she got into the race is similar to your concern about, the COVID response. Laura Lothian in La Mesa is technically, she's in office now, but she just got voted in a special election, but she's another person we got to really work hard to stay in, because I think that she falls right in line with the values that you're describing, the folks that supported you. There are a lot of people that meet that criteria, John, that I think a lot of your folks would love to help. Assuming things don't go well with the rest of the count, they would love to jump into that race for sure.
Well, then I'm pretty sure every single one of my supporters is also supporting Amy Reichert, because Nathan Fletcher is not real popular in these circles.
Yeah, that guy's pretty horrible, man.
Yeah, I went to a couple of the Board of Supervisors meetings. I can't believe how politically sleazy he is.
Politically sleazy. That's exactly that needs to be a T-shirt right there. That's exactly what he is.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
So I went into one of the meetings where they redefined a woman as whoever identifies as one, and I went in there and explained the jail situation, to where I'm not afraid of actual people who think they're women and men who think they're women doing it. I'm afraid of the predator men using this ordinance to get into women's jails. And at the end, he basically accused anyone with this opinion of, he likened us to the people who didn't want, blacks to use the same restrooms. And it was just, I'm trying to warn him that people are going to take advantage of this and abuse women in our jails. And he ended up calling me a racist, which, pretty terrible.
Was there anybody, any candidates or elected or any political types that you met because of your campaign that you liked, other than Amy Reichert?
No, there's several of them. Josiah O'Neill was running for the 51st district, I think it was. He's just amazing. He's actually in law enforcement. I said, man, why weren't you running for sheriff? He's a great guy. And David Chittick was running in the, I think, 50th district. He's amazing, too.
Cool.
But, lots of them, actually.
Well, Jonathan Peck, thank you so much, man. I really, truly appreciate you stepping up and doing what you did. I think that you're a gentleman, a scholar, and a fine judge of scotch. So thank you so much, man. I'm going to talk to you real soon, okay? Thanks for watching this clip from Gun Owners Radio. You can watch us live every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, right here on our YouTube channel, or if you're in the San Diego area, you can listen to us on 1170 a.m. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform for free. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can help restore and protect the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.